Hello and welcome to another episode of Amon Sharon's Pirate Radio podcast. On today's NBA preview, we have two guests. The first one is illustrious as always, Elijah Taylor. Elijah, thank you for coming back on.
Thanks for having me, man. And congrats on the pod. You've been doing well. I see you have some big time guests.
Yeah, man.
I'm like the slowest person on this podcast that's been on here. You've had some fast people on your podcast as of late. So
yeah,
definitely been listening. Pretty cool.
You're still faster than me, so.
I don't know about that anymore. I only got one arm, so you probably take that, but I appreciate it.
Fair enough. So NBA preview, season starts the 22nd. A lot of things to talk about. The best place to start, I think, is the Giannis contract, biggest contract ever, 5 years, $228 million, if I'm correct. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm happy. As a basketball fan, I think for the first time in like a while, we've had where like a homegrown in-market star stays in that market and doesn't like dash off at their first chance, like in free agency. And I think it's gonna. I don't know if he'll ever win a championship in Milwaukee. Like honestly, I don't know if that's necessarily in his control, but I do think he'll always be, as long as he's on the team. They'll always be contenders. And obviously, there's gonna be people you never know. Like they might go mid-season and say, "Yo, let's trade for James Harden," and then all of a sudden they're the favorites out of the Eastern Conference. So I think it was a big move. I think every team in the NBA is probably happy about that. Every fan base is happy except maybe like, I don't know, maybe Miami fans, maybe Dallas fans. They might have envisioned him going to Miami, maybe him going to Dallas. But I think besides that, every fan base is pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one. I'm glad he stayed. It shows his loyalties. It's like not the new NBA, like chip chasing necessarily. So I think as long as he's there, there's going to be the Bucks are going to be a contender. So I'm happy.
Yeah, at least for this first at least for the first contract. This is his first big contract. After this, if it doesn't work out, then I give him free option to go wherever he wants at that point. Yeah,
no, I agree with that. I give him credit for sticking it out for the next 5.
Yeah,
you touched on my next point, which is James Harden. He's fat now.
Man,
he missed training camp. He was in Vegas and Atlanta. So do you think he wants to be in Houston?
Nah, I definitely don't think he wants to be in Houston. But I feel like at this point with James, he's such a tricky guy. I'm not a huge, like I said, I respect his game. He's really good. I'm not a huge fan of him as a teammate. And if you look at it, he's at the point now where he's kind of burned every bridge he's had. Like, it's kind of funny you look at the evolution of James Harden's career. Like, he started in Oklahoma City as, like, 6th man of the year, guy off the bench. Then he comes to Houston where he finally gets this unique opportunity where it's like, yo, you get to start. And I don't think anybody imagined he would be that good, maybe even himself. But now that he's kind of involved into this megastar, I think like there might have been a report yesterday where like everybody in Houston was like bending over backwards to accommodate his needs in terms of like player personnel, in terms of like team decisions. And I think, and at this point, I feel like the organization at this point needs to put their foot down. Obviously, like with 2 years on your deal, it's not as pressing as if it was like the final year and he's going into free agency. So I don't think they're going to settle for anything less. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's a prime asset. You're only gonna get this opportunity like one time. Yeah, and I also feel like, not to say that it's a bad thing, but Anthony Davis kind of didn't do him any favors. If you look at the haul that he got in his trade, it was like the Lakers gave up like generations of first round picks and young talent. And I don't know who in the NBA really has that situation right now, other than maybe the team that traded Anthony Davis away, but you know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily see them making that trade right now. So I think he's probably going to be on ice for at least until, February, March. But
yeah, he's going to have to figure it out one way or the other, whether they add a piece or he like fully commits to winning.
Yeah.
So the next point, obviously the Beal Westbrook trade, also involving the Rockets and the Wizards. Who do you think won that trade, if anyone?
It's a really complicated trade because I think before this year, everybody could pretty much agree that John Wall had like the worst contract in the NBA by far. Like it's probably still the worst contract in the NBA. Coming off his injury, it just, if you didn't show me him playing, I would have been like, hell no. I saw his preseason game; he looks explosive. Like I said, with modern medicine now, and like, we're just seeing people come back from torn anything in your back and you're good. So I don't doubt that he'll still be able to revert to like still being that elite player that he was. But at the same time, I don't know. He just to me, it's not really. I don't think there's any winners of the trade. Like I said, like yeah, Beal gets Westbrook in Washington. We'll see how that pairing works together. But at the same time, there's a possibility Beal leaves at the end of this off season as well. So I think I think both sides kind of won in a weird way. I can't really explain it. I would say the bigger winner would be probably Washington, because even though Westbrook's contract is also pretty bad, it's not as bad as John Wall's.
Right.
So
Right.
I think they have flexibility in the long term, at least.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the new duo pairing.
Yeah,
Like I said, like you said, I think it's a fair trade. Who do you think's the better duo, Beal and Harden or Westbrook? Uh,
I think you got it
Westbrook
backwards.
and Beal
Westbrook
and
and Bill and
Harden,
Harden and John.
John.
The thing I will say is I would probably say Westbrook and Bill, and the only reason I'll say that is Bill. It's because of the two players in their own right. Bill's actually able to play without the ball in his hand,
Right.
whereas like John Wall, he can't really shoot really well, and James is just ball dominant guard. So they're both two ball dominant players. So I don't know. They're gonna have to figure out how it works. Like James isn't really much of a catch and shoot guy, really. So I don't know. There might be a whole lot of like John Wall just standing around not doing anything while James is dribbling the ball. So yeah, I think definitely Beal and Westbrook could work a little better in terms of
Yeah,
like skill sets.
I agree with that. With Beal playing off ball, with Harden, you
Hmm.
probably just want to have three shooters and like a big
Hmm.
man.
Yeah, exactly,
So you
exactly.
don't
So.
really need the other guy, other big guy like that, like John Wall.
And another
So
thing with Harden, I really got to just see, like, he's, if you look at these previous years, they've designed systems just to accommodate him, like, even their lineups and everything. And it's like, I don't know if this new coach will necessarily do that, especially with this, him being unhappy. So he may have to play in a system where maybe he's not getting the ball as much. So it's definitely interesting, we'll have to wait and see on that.
yeah, we'll definitely see. The draft a couple weeks ago. What were your takeaways from the draft? Who do you think had the best draft?
It was a very weird draft because,
Mhm.
like I said, we didn't really get to see a lot of these guys. Not even because of COVID, because when you think about it, most of the collegiate season was kind of finished, but they all each had their own unique issues. Like we didn't get to see James Wiseman much because he had the scandal at Memphis, so like you only saw a couple
Right.
games. And I would say going into the year, the consensus number one pick would be him. Then Lamelo went overseas, but all you see are YouTube highlights. Lamelo kind of making these crazy passes, making these crazy shots, and I would say there was no stars in that draft. I would say they're good, solid players. Maybe Lamelo. If there's going to be a star, it may be Lamelo. But like I
Right. I
said, I
agree
think
with that.
everybody went to the perfect situation, give or take, at least in the top five. The guy that went first out of Georgia, I watch a lot of SEC basketball, and when you watch games, you're like, that guy never really popped out to me. He never really popped out to me. He's very physical, but I don't know if he's really that good.
Is that
Um,
Williams?
what's the guy that went first? I forgot his name. It
Oh,
might be
Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards. Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah.
his game didn't really pop to me like that when I saw it, Georgia. Look like everybody else, I was like, okay, I see what you got there. Like James Wiseman, his length, his versatility, I think he'll fit in the Warriors system very well.
Mhm.
LaMelo, I think going to Charlotte, you're just gonna be able to do whatever the hell you want. Like they just wanted a star to really sell tickets, and I think that's what he can be. Um, and I saw a lot of like better picks down the road. Like I like Obi Toppin to the Knicks. I think
Thank
he's
you. Thank you.
really athletic. I think he was really like underrated. But
Mhm.
so we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, I don't think you'll see these guys like fully blossom for another year or two. So
Yeah,
we'll have to obviously come back and judge it.
generally like second, third years start people like, to see people really blow up, other than Luca, who was an all star in his rookie year. But like you
Yeah.
said, I think the most highlight reel superstar potential is Lamelo. We've already seen
Hmm.
it in the preseason. And then
Yeah.
everyone else, we kind of see how it shakes out. I'm happy with what you said about Obi Toppin. There was a lot of doubters on Twitter, but I think if he can figure out his defense, it could be a really good asset to the Knicks. So
Yeah, I was a huge fan of him even like in college, and like I said, if he somehow fell to the Nets, which I know was impossible, I would have been ecstatic. I just love his game, and I think he's like a ready. I think he's going to be one of the rookie of the year candidates if they could find a way to just get him in their rotation and figure out, because they have a lot of forwards right now in the Knicks, but I think they could figure it out.
yeah, I think even I would rather play him than Julius Randle at this point.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they're paying
Right.
Randall a lot, but
Yeah.
they have to figure it out though. That's
Right.
up to Thibodeau to really figure out, but
Mhm.
he has to play, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously Robinson is really big. Love
Yeah.
watching him play. So we'll see how they work out their forwards, or our forwards, I should say, as a Knicks fan. Speaking of fandom, I know you're a big Nets fan. What are the 2021 expectations for the Brooklyn Nets?
So now that we didn't trade the farm away for James Harden, which I'm very happy for because I was very scared of that. I was very anti don't trade the system away. I think the goal this season, anything less than the Eastern Conference Finals is like a failure. Like, and I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like barring, and I don't even care if like barring Kevin Durant getting hurt, we
Right.
should at least be at Eastern Conference Final. Like if Kyrie goes down, it's like all right, whatever. I think we have enough guards to like literally be fine. But as long as we have Kevin Durant, he's looked very good. Like I said, even when I saw like videos of him shooting around like throughout the past couple of months, it was like, oh, all right, he looks healthy. He's dunking. He doesn't look stiff. And even I think the mantra of him was always, even if he comes back, it's not like he has to be like mobility. Like speed isn't really part of his game. He's gonna still always be like 7 foot and able to shoot over people. So
Right.
like the skill's not gonna really like go away. So I think as long as we're not overusing him, obviously I think there'll probably be a little bit of minutes restrictions in the beginning to some extent, but I think he'll be good to go. And I think the team, the fact that we kept the core group together, it's good. The only thing is we have a new first time ever head coach in Steve Nash. So he has to learn how to put those parts together. It's going to be tough the first couple of months, I think, with just rotations in terms of who starts, who comes off the bench, which lineups are most effective in which situations. Like, do I want to have Karis LeVert running point guard? Do I want Spencer Dinwiddie? You know what I mean? It's going to be so many different factors, but the
Right.
fact that we had those pieces to play with, I'd rather be in that situation than being stuck with, you know, a, a non-talented roster. So
Yeah, they have a lot of good problems to have in terms of rotations. Like you said,
definitely.
I think a good thing for Nets fans is Katie doesn't necessarily have to worry about the regular season. Can let
Exactly.
everyone else handle that. I think you guys look really promising without Katie or Kyrie at the end of the bubble with the
Yeah.
rotation. So I think adding them, I think they'll be able to figure it out. You
Yeah.
brought up something I forgot. Steve Nash. What do you think of that hire?
It caught me off guard, honestly. It was very funny because I was working in my Nets shirt randomly that day. I didn't know that news was gonna drop, and then it's like, oh, Steve Nash is the new coach. And I didn't really feel any ways about it. It wasn't like I was like, oh my god, slam dunk. Potentially, I think I like. I would say I have a better feeling than I had when we hired Jason Kidd a couple of years ago in terms of like he's a basketball savant. He has that knowledge. He's one of the best point guards to ever played a game. So I think he'll be fine. And what I did like was the coaching staff they put around him. Like the
Right.
coaching staff around him is like they retained the interim coach that we had last year, which was Gavon. We brought in the
Mari.
Rockets coach. Yeah, we brought in Mari Stoudemire. He's the development coach. So many like great, like talented guys and coaches that I think will be fine. Like it's one of those like there's too much great basketball minds in one room for us not to be good at, especially offensively. Again, I think offensively we'll score a lot of points. So all I'm worried about is how we, defend and how we develop on that end, and that's the only thing I'm like kind of worried about. But we'll have to just wait and see.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with that. At least he has people around Nash, has people around him where he's not totally on his own. So I think that helps.
Yeah.
Um, all right, we're gonna get into the. So we'll start in the East. Who do you think is the biggest threat to the Nets right now?
Um, I would say that who the Nets the biggest threat to, because like I said, I still want to keep that underdog mentality. But I would say the biggest, and this is just me. I guess you would say the Bucks. They're like the big dog that everybody has to take down, even though they didn't make it to the conference finals. I know a lot of people were hype about Miami making the finals last year. I do think that was more of a circumstantial thing than them actually being like here and arrived. I think a lot of guys on that team played outside of themselves. Not saying that they're not good players, but it's just a whole different
Right.
set of circumstances. But I would say the biggest threat, if not Milwaukee, it would be Boston. And I
Okay.
know that sounds crazy, them losing Gordon Hayward, but they have so much talent on that roster that if Jason Tatum takes another step forward, it's like you don't know what you're gonna get. He might be the next superstar. So they just have a lot of talent. They're well coached. But yeah, I would definitely say who would I not want to see in the conference finals? I'd rather not see. I'd rather probably not see Boston, but at the same time, Milwaukee's no joke either. But yeah,
Yeah. Like you said, I think Tatum's definitely a step away from being a superstar. He's underrated defensively, and obviously Brad Stevens is one of the best coaches in the league. So
apparently
definitely,
he grew 2 inches too, which is like crazy.
yeah, that's
So
a
I don't know
problem.
how. Yeah, so it's nuts.
Yeah, and that dunk he almost had on the Heat was pretty crazy. At the
Oh
end
my
of the game.
god,
Yeah.
that was
Who
amazing.
was that on? I'm
I think he
forgetting.
tried to dunk on Bam, right?
Yeah, Bam Adebayo.
Adebayo. That was a great block too. It was just,
Like broke his
it
neck.
was like, yeah, it was nuts. It was literally like the inverse of the Odell catch, but in
Yeah,
basketball.
yeah,
It was
exactly.
nuts.
That's a
It was
good
nuts.
comparison. We'll move over to the West. Obviously, Lakers gonna be tough to stop. Who are the big dogs in the West in your eyes?
So yeah, I think the Lakers are like favored to repeat.
They're plus 190 to win it all.
Yeah, which I don't know. I think that's too optimistic. I do think it's going to be tough. I would honestly say their biggest issue, which most people won't really think of it this way, I think it's the Nuggets. And the reason I say that,
Mhm.
that Nuggets team really showed me a lot in the bubble. And it's like they're young. Everybody's back except for like Jeremy Grant, but like they're young. I think. What's the kid, the light skinned dude that they drafted with the back issues out of Missouri a couple years ago? Isn't
Michael
Williams? No,
Porter
what's the
Jr.
last? Michael Porter Jr. Yeah,
Yeah.
MPJ. I think he has like superstar potential. But I feel like he could honestly take another step forward. I really liked how he played in the bubble, especially like when he kind of was like, "Yo, I need the ball more." Like he
Mm-hmm.
called that out and he made that statement, and I felt like he backed it up the next
He
game. And
definitely
they
did.
actually they won, and they were like down 3-1. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's impressive. Any team that could do that, whether it's in the bubble, whether it's in a real like crowd filled arena, that's impressive. I like they have the most they have the most potential to just catch fire. And like I said, their lineup, they have enough firepower where I feel like if they all take a step forward, they can match head to head with the Lakers. The only person they cannot defend is LeBron, but everybody else you could say, all right, you're guarding AD, you're guarding this guy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's definitely the Nuggets.
I thought people are ready to write off the Clippers, but I thought coming back, so the Nuggets credit that they were able to come down from 3-1 to the Clippers. I
Yeah,
think they're still there. They just have to mentally kind of get reset between Kawhi and Paul, especially Paul George. But
yeah.
we'll see. Uh, so yeah, the Nuggets, Clippers. Who else is out there that you think can do some damage?
I think Phoenix is going to be a fun team. I don't know.
Yeah,
They're so young. I mean, they got Chris Paul. I would say they're a good dark horse to get out the first round. If I had to pick another team, I would say Utah. Honestly, I think a lot of people don't respect Utah enough.
yeah.
Utah is freaking. They're tough, man. They're really tough. That's another team where I feel like you don't necessarily want to see in the first or second round in the playoffs. It's tough. Like I said, will the Lakers probably make it out? Yeah, but they also have a small margin of error. And when I say that, barring like good health, yeah, they'll make it. But if somebody gets injured, like whether it's LeBron or AD, then they're in like big trouble. Like they don't have enough, even though they've had a great
Not keep it
offseason, they
up.
don't have
Yeah,
enough depth to they don't have enough depth to supplement one of those big two guys going down. Whereas like if a team like the Nets, if you lost Kyrie, I think we're okay. Like I'm not worried
mm,
about us losing that much production. Whereas if they lose AD or Braun, it's like season's over. Like
yeah, yeah. And in year 18, who knows what can happen to LeBron.
yeah,
Um,
and it's a short off season too. You know what I'm saying? They played
and they
all
played
the
the
way to the
longest.
end of the
Yeah,
bubble. Yeah, and you have the shortest rest, so they're gonna have to be careful with how they manage that. I think coming out
yeah.
the
I
gate.
think minute limits and a lot of stuff will happen, especially early on.
Yeah,
Um, and they kind of reshuffled their roster, but it ended up kind of, to me, this similar to what they had.
yeah, they just got younger and kind of replaced older guys with young guys. Like I like the Schroeder pick, the shorter pickup, the shorter trade. I think he's good. I don't know if he has the wittiness that Rajon Rondo has. And the only
Exactly.
thing I would say watching a lot of Dennis Schroeder when he's good is great. But when Dennis Schroeder is feeling himself,
Inconsistent.
he'll take shots that are dumb and you'll look at it like, what the hell are you doing? So you have to be prepared for that as well. And we'll see. He's not necessarily the basketball genius that Rondo is. So that's something they definitely probably took for granted just a little bit.
Yeah, Rondo is one of the great basketball minds that we have today between his passing and just overall basketball IQ. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, before we wrap up, get into some of the NBA award predictions, and then we could do some of the odds. So rookie of the year, I think we kind of touched on already. My favorite would be LaMelo. I like what you said about
Yeah.
Obi Toppin, but I think LaMelo right now is the favorite.
Yeah, I would say if Obi Toppin plays, I would say Obi, but LaMelo, it's LaMelo's award to lose. So he
Yeah.
definitely has every advantage to go ahead and win it, definitely.
So obviously Giannis is coming off Defensive Player of the Year and MVP, two consecutive MVPs. I don't think it'll be him again for at least the Defensive Player of the Year and probably the MVP also. But who are you looking at that could kind of surprise some people and come out defensively this year?
Yeah, good, great question. I would say MVP, honestly. I know I don't want to sound like a Nets homer, but if Kevin Durant comes back averaging 28 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, I think it's gonna probably go to him because in that situation, if the Nets go from like a 7, 8 seed, like what we've been in the past, to like a 1 seed overnight, I think you'll have to give him the MVP award. That's really what it's gonna come down to. I feel like so. I'll go KD.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I think in a way it's his to lose as long as he stays healthy because I think he's the
Yeah,
toughest matchup right now. Like all things going for him with his legs attached. So
yeah.
all right. Yeah, so I'm really excited for the season, 22nd. What is your if I give you 59 over under wins for the Nets?
59. That's a big number. I'm gonna say under, and the only reason I'm gonna say under is I do think there's going to be a point where we struggle trying to figure out rotations and who starts and who plays and them getting the chemistry. Like the core group of the team has a lot of experience playing with each other, but Kyrie doesn't and Kevin
Yeah.
Durant doesn't, and that's going to be even with Kyrie before Kyrie got hurt. I did notice there were times where the offense looked stagnant, where he would just kind of dribble around and everybody's kind of standing around, the ball's not moving around, and I think they're gonna have to learn to play within a system where you know we're moving the ball, we're passing the ball, we're only letting guys take high percentage shots instead of you just saying how much drive to the hoop on four guys, like you know what I'm saying. So I
Right.
think that'll probably change up a little bit, but once we get that, I think we'll be good.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see how everything pans out in Brooklyn. Am I crazy as a Knicks fan to think if everything goes right, everyone buys into the Thibodeau system defensively, hard work, the rotation works out, that they can make a run for the 8 seed?
I think so. And I know every Knicks fan say, no, we're not going to get it. I think it's possible because, not to shit on the Eastern Conference, but the Eastern Conference isn't that strong towards the bottom. Like,
Right.
I'm trying to think. When you look at the 8 seed, you're talking about people like the Orlando Magic.
500.
Yeah, you're like
500.
this 500, and it's a shorter season. You're talking about teams like Orlando. You're talking about teams like Detroit. You're talking about teams like those are teams you could actually compete with and beat out. I think if they could find ways to get out to a good start and they get young guys to buy in, and more importantly, I think if they could improve defensively, because Tibbs always been a great defensive-minded coach, if he could get that in and they're a really good defensive team, I think they could definitely, upset a couple people because they have talent offensively. They have talent. It's not like the Knicks or some barren. I've seen some bad Nets teams back in the
Yes.
day. I've been parts of all of those. So this Knicks team is nowhere close to that. I think they have enough talent. I think RJ Barrett can definitely take another step forward. I think they could do it. The only person on the team I'm not sold on, and I think it's a make
Knox.
or break this year, it'd be Knox and Frankie Ntilikina. Those two guys got to prove themselves. After that,
Yeah. I
everybody
think
else, I feel confident.
Frankie Smokes, Ntilikina my favorite player, and I think he's really going to shine this year under Thibodeau. So
I hope so. I like Frankie, so we'll see. If
Knox,
he takes a step forward, then I think you guys can make it definitely.
my alarm's going off. But on that note, thank you very much for coming on. I'd love to have you
Thanks for
back
having me.
before the playoffs and finals. But
Definitely.
let everyone know where they can find your podcast and all your stuff.
Yeah, I actually just started recording a day ago because I was like on injured reserve with a broken arm. Had a freak accident where a tree fell on me. But if you guys want to check out my podcast, you can find me on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. It's called the Wavy New Yorker Podcast. Talk about everything from sports to current events to everything you can imagine. So you check us out and appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, man. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank
All
you.
right. We're out.